emotion, but a common emotion. No, it's fine. It's just like and I don't know. Okay, whatever. Where anger is a common emotion, but it's also an emotion that's necessary because you can do that. You want to figure that out? Because it's a sense of violation. So a lot of times people will be afraid to feel angry or not want to express their anger when actually it's a necessity to realize that you're angry and validate that anger to then give it a space.
Right.
So the difference is, one is acknowledging the fact that you are angry, but not necessarily dwelling within the anger. And that's a very big difference, because to feel angry is normal, it's natural, and it's not only that, it's a necessity. It's a function of communicating something's wrong. Often at a time of violation, people feel angry when they're violated emotionally. I'm not speaking physically, I mean that too, but I'm speaking from an emotional level. So it's very important to realize that anger is not idol worship when you acknowledge the anger. It's idol worship if you let it take over you to the point where you can't distinguish between you and your actions. And that's where rage, I think someone should change the definition to being that anger is acceptable and rage is idol worship. When you lose the control between your emotion and your action, that is idol worship. When you say, oh, I don't know why I yelled or hit or did that, that's where it becomes kilu idol worship, because you're serving yourself so much. But anger is valid. If someone hurts you, if someone violates you, if someone takes something that's not yours, if someone's,
it's normal for you to feel hurt.
It's not only normal, it's necessary for you to feel your anger so that you can be aware of why you're feeling that and try to prevent that in the future. Going back to the topic at hand, having the Beis HaMikdash, which is the necessity for us to feel home, where we know where to go, where we know what to do and how to fix it, is for us to feel that we have direct connection with Hashem. The way in which we need to now rebuild the Beis HaMikdash is because it was destroyed through Sinas Chinam. We now need to create it through Sinas Ahava.
What's Sinas?
So I'll explain it. So the way, I'm a little distracted because I'm live. Hi, everybody. We're talking about Sinas Chinam and building the Torah. But I'm not going to focus on the computer, but totally listen. Building the Beis HaMikdash. So basically, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed through Sinas Chinam, which means baseless hatred. Baseless hatred is when you hate people for no reason. When you basically, it's actually ironic that I'm on Facebook Live because I do a lot of things on Facebook, and so many people say hate for no reason to other people on comments about other people, go on other people's pages and other people's space and share hateful messages. And it's, the Facebook is only a microcosm of the macrocosm of the world that's going on, like a small little example of what's going on right now, bigger and in social scenes, but that people share hatred for no reason.
Do you think baseless hatred comes from boredom? Or from a lack of something within yourself?
Yeah, so the way in which you rebuild the Beis HaMikdash now is through Sinas Ahava. So baseless means without cause. Another way of understanding without cause is to be unconditional. So the way that you have love, I'm getting really distracted by so many things. The way that you have love is when it's unconditional. If someone says, I love you when, that is not love. If someone says, I love you when you're thin, but I don't love you anymore when you're heavy, that's not love. If someone says, I love you when you make money, but I don't love when you don't, that's not love. If someone says, I love you when, or I love you if, that's not love. If someone says to themselves, which is the most common thing, when someone says, oh, if someone said that to me, of course that would be love. But the issue with that is that's what we're saying to ourselves. That's where the issue comes. We say to ourselves, I'll love you when you make more money. I'll love you when you get married. I'll love you when you're thinner. I'll love when you're happier. And so we give ourselves these very real and very horrible conditions as to why we are deserving or not deserving of our own love. The basic facet.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, you can say
There's
something.
An amazing quote, and you guys should listen to this.
Yeah.
So it says, the beginning of love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves and not to twist them to fit our own image. Otherwise, we love only the reflection of ourselves we find in them.
Do you want to just repeat that because there's a lot of noise?
The beginning, no, please don't.
Okay, go. Go.
The beginning of love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves, unconditional, like you said, and to not twist them to fit our own image. Otherwise, we love only the reflection of ourselves we find in them.
Exactly. So the way that we're rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash is through sinas ahava, baseless love. Baseless means without cause, which another word is unconditional. So if we're really going to love ourselves, we can't love ourselves based on conditions, which is what a lot of people do right now. The basic facet of the Torah is v'ahavta l'reacha k'mocha, that you have to love other people k'mocha, like you love yourself. And it's a very, very basic component to Judaism, and yet not nearly spoken about enough, which is why I do the work that I do, which is teach people how to do self-love and marriage counseling based on self-love. And basically, there's a pasuk that we say in davening every single day that says, I want to pull out a siddur. No. Yeah, Harini Makabal Shal v'ahavta l'reacha k'mocha. And we say, if depending on your nusach, you say it right before Matovu. That's the Chabad nusach. But basically, every siddur says Harini Makabal Shal v'ahavta l'reacha k'mocha. And I believe it was the Baal Shem Tov. I could totally be misquoting the source, but some great rabbi basically said that you're not even allowed to say Shema if you have hatred in your heart for another Jew. Because Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that we're all one, that we're all from the same source, is basically you're completely obliterating that if you have hate in your heart for another Jew. And that, I mean, I didn't say this, another great rabbi said this, but it was that you can't even say, he said it was forbidden to say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which without actually feeling love for every single Jew. Because you can't believe that Hashem is one and we're all one and then hate another person.
But I don't know how realistic that is, because everyone in life, like, I don't want to say the word hate, but like everyone in life dislikes someone. There's that's the way life is. But that's not like a little extreme.
It's different. Hate is different. Disliking something, okay, forget about it. Hating,
but many people hate. That's the thing. So like, how do you know?
No, many people they how do I say? I forgot English. I don't speak so much. How do I say? Many people forget the fine line. Maybe people say, yeah, I hate her, I hate him, or I hate this type of nature, I hate that, or hate is a strong word. Hate is when you sit there and you say, oh my God, I hate you so much. Like 24/7 in your heart, in your mind, all you're thinking about is that one thing that you don't like, one person that you don't like. That's hate. Disliking, you say, I don't like.
No, there's a lot of people that hate.
Okay, so I just want to bring,
I just want to bring something up. But go ahead. So actually, the explanation for having to say before davening is because our relationship with Hashem, it's given in Chassidus all the time, is like the parent and the child. And so Hashem is the parent and the giver, and we're kind of the children. And so, first of all, there's a big question, why do we even daven in the first place? And if one answer is one explanation is to build a connection. In Judaism, I asked one of my rabbi from back home, what is the core of Judaism? And he said, it's a connection, it's a relationship. In the holiest of holy places, there's two angels, and it's a relationship. And so going back to why would we have to preface all davening by we love each other? It's because me and another person, we are all children. And imagine the pain that a father would feel for if all of his children are fighting. I'm not saying that it's children can't have bickers and can't have arguments with each other. That's normal. Yeah, that's normal. However, in order to, when I approach my father and I say I hate, my siblings, the father is like in such a place of distraught that the father can't give. Hashem wants to load us with so much. He wants to give us more and more and more. I'm reading a mimer, or I'm learning a mimer, and it's saying that that Hashem wants, if I perform the will of Hashem, like I don't know what Hashem is thinking. What I do know, the only thing I know about Hashem is what he wants done, is performing his will. I don't know his thoughts. I don't know, there's chukot like shatnez and kashrus. Like, why am I actually doing it? I'm never gonna understand why my father is thinking the way he is. But what I do know is what he's telling me. And Hashem is telling me, or when a father tells a child, this is what I want, then the child has no reason to be unclear with how do I make my father happy. He's telling me what, he's telling me. And so if I perform, the mimer is called The Simple Servant. And so it's this idea that I don't know, I don't care, I don't understand, I'm never going to understand everything, that Hashem is thinking, or even the smallest little thing. However, I do know that I can perform his will to the best of my ability. And in the relationship between a servant and a slave, so a servant and a master, the name for Hashem is Adon, is master. It's it's really really fascinating. And so if a master sees his servant performing the will, accepting the ol malchut shamayim, like putting this burden of halacha on and performing the will, and if he sees that this person is doing everything that he wants, he's just going to say, "Oh, I'll trust you with this. I'll trust you with this. I'll trust you with this," and that comes to us and, whoa, look at these miracles Hashem is giving, And so going back to Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, why we say that before davening, one explanation is that before I go to my father with problems, say, I love my siblings, and then you can ask for whatever you need, but it has to be prefaced with, okay, I'm gonna give you what's on my plate. However, deep down, I do love. I just have problems, and then Hashem can help me.
It's like the sequence. It just shows, like, the sequence how it's given is just like, I'm going to my father, and then I'm gonna love it. No, please.
Okay, fine. Go, continue.
It's like I like how you discuss it. You said it is just like, first it's like you're gonna do Hashem's will, you're gonna be a servant, and then like you're gonna go into the Shema. Like it's like sequenced.
And that's why we call it a Seder.
Yeah, right.
A Seder is in order.
Right.
So going back to the essence of even being able to serve Hashem, because the whole point of serving Hashem is serving Hashem b'simcha. But if you're full of hate, you can't really serve Hashem with joy, let alone daven in the morning, shacharis, let alone, have in mind to build the Beit HaMikdash. So back to basics, which is like really, for me, the essence of this shir, is that if the whole purpose of recreating the Beis HaMikdash is so that we can learn how to love each other, then by default, we have to learn how to love ourselves. Because the way in which you love other people is based on the way you love yourself. The way that you view yourself is the reflection out into the world. And then also, that Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, you can only love your fellow Jew like you love yourself, kamocha, that there isn't
as if they're yourself.
Kamocha, like you love yourself.
Sorry.
And that it's really important to remember that, because if we as let's say for the women in the room or for the men, but whatever. If like we have our insecurity, let's say about our fingernails, one of the first things that we'll look at other women are their fingernails. So the thing that we love about ourselves, let's say our hair. When you meet another woman, you're not looking at her hair. It's the insecurities. It's the parts of us that we don't love that we're trying to compare and see if it's negative or positive in other people. So the reason Kimocha, like you love yourself, is because the way in which we view ourselves is the way in which we view your world, and it's tachlis. It's very real, it's practical, and it's very black and white. There's no argument on that. And
that was perfectly said.
and the way now that we can rebuild it is by acknowledging that the difference between hatred, like, you know, how you said very beautifully, how can they say like Shema if I like actually hate someone? Like, how can it be realistic that I don't hate anybody? So there's a difference. First of all, the only way that you will hate anyone is if you hate a part of yourself. Mm-hmm. So we have very different parts of ourselves.
What do you mean?
I'll get to it in a second. We have very many different parts of ourselves. We have the part of ourselves that we show other people. Mm-hmm. We have the part of ourselves that when we're alone, we know who we are. We have the part of ourselves when we're angry. We have the part of ourselves when we're in intimate relationships. I work primarily with women. At this point, only with women because being married is awesome. And the way that you are in an intimate relationship with a partner is completely different than when you're in a relationship, when you're single, or that relationships with your friends. Yeah. So, you know, you can have a very healthy, productive person in a certain area and a completely fallen apart person in another area. And they can love the parts of themselves that they show, or the parts of themselves that they have with women, but hate the parts of themselves they are with men, or love the parts of themselves that they are with men and hate the part of themselves with women. If you hate a part of yourself, that part of you, which is reflected in another individual based on having those character traits, is what will cause you to hate. If you love yourself completely, the way that you look when you're not dressed, the way that you look when you're dressed, the way that you look when you're, you know,
it's easier said than done.
Yes, there's a difference. That's the point. Everything's easier said than done. But the thing is when we love ourselves in totality, when people who come into our lives that are different from us or bring out different aspects of us, we will not hate them. And if people are bad, and unfortunately there are people who do very, very bad things, you don't have to like them, and you don't have to
acknowledge their presence.
Like them, but love is different than like, because like is a very decided, rational choice. I like this because I don't like this because there's a reason, there's a rationale. But when you love someone, it's beyond reason. If you want to like tell me, like when a mother first has a baby and she's like, I never even knew I can love so much. Like, it's so beyond rationale. When you're married and your partner does this, that, or the other thing, you love them. It's so beyond rationale. You're not like, I love them because they did this. It's much beyond that. So when you love another fellow Jew, you're not loving them because you like them. You could like them, you could not like them. That's your choice. That's your decision. That's your rationale. That's your logic. But to love someone because they exist, because Hashem created them. And if Hashem created them, Hashem doesn't make mistakes. Hashem is epic, and he creates epicness. And you know, sometimes people make horrible mistakes or don't do things that are great, and they deal with their own pain and they deal with their own shame. And it's not for us to judge them. It's for us to have compassion. And that is the distinction. When you hate yourself, besides the fact that you're not loving yourself, you are, because love isn't conditional. So you either love yourself or you don't. You don't like yourself sometimes. That's not love. But if you are able to have compassion for people, then you cannot like them and still have compassion for them.
Right.
You can say, I'm really sorry that that man abused his child because he must have been a small baby or a small child who was so horribly abused that he started abusing children himself. Right. It's not acceptable behavior.
Well.
What?
Same thing's the opposite as well. Women also abuse children.
Stop. Don't you? We're not going there. It's not. I'm not doing a gender argument here. We're talking about people in general. We're talking about concepts. We're not talking about details. And if someone abuses someone else, you cannot engage with them. You can detach. You can not say that that behavior is okay.
Right.
But to hate them is misunderstanding that they were an infant at one point too. And to have a deeper compassion for people is a way that you understand your unity. Mm-hmm. When you say Shema Yisrael, can't even say the thing. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. When you're recognizing the unity that we all have within every single one of us and every other person we meet, it doesn't leave room for hatred. It just doesn't. Hatred comes from feeling disconnected, from a disunity, from a distinction. That person is bad because they did a bad thing, and I would never do that, so I'm not like them. When in actuality, we all do things we're really not proud of, and some of them are more extreme, and some of them are others. But some of us have had more support. Some of us have access to medication. Some of us have moms. Some of us don't have moms. I can't tell you, I don't know where I would be if I didn't have my mother. I had a client. She didn't have a mom. Her mom, whatever, was not alive. Meaning, I don't know where I would be if I didn't have the support of my mother to get me through the hard times. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have my father to get me. I don't know, and I'm not judging that. But if we would think about other people in this compassionate mind frame, the same way that we would think about ourselves with compassion, there is no room for hatred. There's room for rahmanas. Mm-hmm. There's room for detaching. You don't need to be with them or talk to them or say the behavior is okay, but you don't hate them. And the same thing with ourselves. When we do things that we're not proud of, and we all have those moments, you either can hate yourself because you feel disconnected from yourself and you feel disconnected from your actions, or you can say, I'm so sorry that you didn't have the support you needed to yourself, that you didn't make a better decision. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's really what it comes down to. That we need to learn how to say to ourselves, I'm sorry you didn't have the right support in that moment to make a better decision. But right. I still love you. Right. And I still know that you have the potential to do good again. Right. And that my actions might have been bad, but I am not bad.
Right. I still love myself. I made a mistake, but I can validate I made a mistake and that's it. Move on. But we beat ourselves up. We beat ourselves up when something happens. It's like, why did I do that? Oh my God, I'm a failure. I'm a this, I'm a that.
Why we beat ourselves up? It's because we're used to beating ourselves. It comes from where we learn.
But if you can shift, if you can make a shift and you can say, okay, I didn't make the best decision, like Chaya Sarah said, but I'm still a good person. I still love myself. I'm still Shayna. I'm still Chaya Sarah. I'm still a good person. I think that's the main thing is to not yeah.
And if you can do that with everyone else, the way that you did it with yourself, you would have the Beis HaMikdash. If we can say to ourselves, yeah, I did something wrong, and I still love myself because I am Shayna, which means I am inherently good, which means God created me, and we're talking about God here. God created me. I have to be amazing. I have to, because I was created by someone who doesn't make mistakes, and that I can be a human, which means that the way in which the energy of the world was created is to descend to ascend. The energy of the world, mamash, was created in a wave. That Hashem said, you will go down, but it's a way of getting up. So that we're not here to judge ourselves or other people when they go down. Sure. We're here to say, I know that's part of your up. And I'm going to love you and support you through the process. Mm-hmm. And when we can have this compassionate view where we're not judging ourselves, where we're not saying that we're good or bad because, then we can actually look at other people and say they're not good or bad because they are amazing. Their neshama is pure and bright and holy, and their minds might not be. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge difference. And when we die and we get buried in the ground, our neshama, our soul, is what exists. Our brain, it disintegrates with the rest of our body. And unfortunately, we are human. And so when we have a human brain, it will have traumas and it will have scars and it will have sometimes a mommy and sometimes no mommy. And sometimes we don't know how to treat other people if we weren't treated well. Mm-hmm. And that's not people aren't bad. And when people say things that are or do things that are, it's important that we have practiced so much with ourselves to have compassion and see ourselves for who we really are, which are bright, sweet, healthy, loving neshamas, that we can reflect that out into the world. That if we ourselves learn on a daily basis to accept ourselves for who we are and who we're not, then when we meet other people, the natural vision that we will give them is what we have been seeing from ourselves, our eyes. We don't look at other people with another person's pair of eyes. We look at people with our eyes. But our eyes are practiced based on what we're looking at, based on what we're seeing, based on what we're trying not to see. And so, again, it doesn't mean you hang out with people you don't vibe with or accept behavior that's not acceptable. I'm not saying that. If someone's violating you, stay away. But to think in the heart, which someone mentioned before, it's not that the hatred is outward. It's the beginning hatred that we feel inside our hearts. It's the judgment. So I give courses a lot, and the opposite, so love and acceptance are here, and they create growth. That's the byproduct. And the opposite side of the spectrum is hatred and not really hatred, is judgment, and which causes stagnation. So I'm just going to repeat that. On one side of the spectrum, it's love and acceptance, which allows for growth. The byproduct is growing. And the opposite is judgment, and it creates stagnation. So when you're judging yourself, it is a form of hatred. It is a form of hatred. And people will constantly tell me, but I need to criticize myself to grow. No, you need to accept yourself for who you are, be really real with what you're good at, with what you're not, with where your flaws are, with where your strengths are, and love yourself completely, so much so that you want to go closer to yourself to grow. When someone criticizes you, you want to move away from them very quickly. When someone judges you, whether or not they're saying a word, you feel it and you move away very quickly. And you don't want to talk to someone who judges you or who criticizes you. But if you're doing that to yourself, it is no different. It's very hard for people to be alone with themselves when they're constantly judging themselves and they're constantly criticizing themselves. They need to be with other people, or go to bars, or go to parties, or have approval from others, or call people up and talk on the phone, or watch movies incessantly. It's very hard for them to be with themselves, because who wants to be with someone who judges them? Who wants to be with someone who criticizes them? No one. And so if we are battling ourselves, a part of us is always going to lose. If you're battling someone else, one of you will win, one of you will lose. If you're battling yourself, a part of you will always be dead. A part of you will always die at the end of that battle. And then it's really, really hard for you to be with yourself when you yourself are battling you. It's a very uncomfortable place to be emotionally. But to be alone with yourself, and happy to be alone with yourself, not to great extents where you feel lonely, but to be alone with yourself means that you have to love yourself enough to hang out with yourself.
So if we go back to delete the videos, are you saying that people there, they didn't love themselves?
Yes. People in the Beis Hamikdash, I wasn't there during that time. I'm speaking about the times now, which is the only information that I have and the only knowledge that I have from Hashem, which is the energy of today. But based on Chassidut, which is beyond my existence, and Torah, which is far beyond my existence, and Chassidut is really just the mystical, deeper parts of the Torah, so it's also like it's tapped into the infinite, which I am finite. But